What's good, YouTubers and YouTubettes? This is JB Sports back again with another one. Regular WBA lightweight champion Gervonta Tank Davis, who is the cash cow of the lower weights, 140 pounds or below. If you want to make your biggest check, your biggest payday, you want to go see Gervonta Tank Davis. Well, on his Twitter page a couple of days ago, he said back to work. So he's preparing for his next fight. His promoter, Leonard Ellaby, said his next fight will be on pay-per-view. I don't know why it's going to be on pay-per-view, considering the fact that Rick Glazer, a known BBC hater from way back, said that the fight did 52K. So I don't know why his next fight is going to be on pay-per-view. That kind of spits in the face of what he said, man, in my opinion. I don't think the fight did no 52K. With all that being said, let's talk about possible opponents for Gervonta Tank Davis. Now, I'm going to go back to his last fight with Isaac Cruz, not to, tell you how the fight went, but to go back and reveal the purses of both fighters. Before the fight went down, Gervonta Tank Davis was guaranteed $1 million with 60% of the pay-per-view. Isaac Cruz was guaranteed $300,000 with 40% of the pay-per-view. What was all said and done, according to what I heard, is Gervonta Tank Davis ended up making $2.3 million, and Isaac Cruz made $600,000. With what he paid Isaac Cruz, it leads me to believe that his next opponent, unless they don't open up the vault and pay. One thing about Gervonta Tank Davis and his opponents so far on pay-per-view, outside of Leo Santa Cruz, who made over $1 million, no other opponent has made even approached $1 million. Mario Barrios made around $500,000. Now, when it was all said and done, he probably made close to $1 million, maybe $750,000 to $1 million when it was all said and done. But he didn't get that off the rip. His guarantee was around $500,000. With that being said, I know a lot of people been saying about Mr. Gary Russell could be a possible opponent. But Gary Russell himself made $1 million in his last fight against Nyanbar. And he got 60% of the international pay-per-view. Nyanbar made $400,000. $100,000 more than Isaac Cruz, Gervonta Tank Davis' last opponent. And he got 40% of the international money. So I don't think they're going to be able to afford Gary Russell. I know a lot of people out here speculating that Gary Russell going to be the next fight. I don't see that. Like I said, he's a cash cow boxer. I know people saying, wait a minute, I thought you said he was a cash cow boxer. You want your biggest check, go see him. Okay, look at what those opponents making fighting anybody outside of Gervonta Tank Davis. They might be getting like $150,000 at best, $200,000 at best, if they ain't fighting Gervonta Tank Davis. Gervonta Tank Davis is giving them a $300,000 minimum, but with the back end pay-per-view money, they gonna double that. So Isaac Cruz made $600,000, and I guarantee you that he didn't make more than $250,000 in any of his previous fights. I guarantee you that. So he is giving these guys their biggest payday. When you look at what they're gonna earn on the pay-per-view. And that's why these guys, because they know they're going to sell. You're going to be on, unlike what Rick Glazer said the fight did 52K. If the fight did 52K, Isaac Cruz wouldn't have doubled his money. Okay, he went from $300,000 guaranteed minimum to $600,000 is what he ended up making in the Gervonta Tank Davis fight. If that fight did 52K, he wasn't going to get no $600,000. I'll tell you that right now. So, like I said, don't believe those numbers. No 52K, 65K, 75K. You don't believe none of that. That's nothing but fake news, and it don't hold no weight, okay? Based on what both fighters end up making. With all that being said, I don't think they're going to be able to afford Gary Russell. Now, if Gary Russell is upset by Mark Magsayo, that guy's up under MP Promotions, promoted by Manny Pacquiao and Sean Gibbons. If he's able to pull an upset, they might be able to get him to come up to 135 pounds. They can kind of set it as Manny Pacquiao fighter taking on Floyd Mayweather Jr.'s fighter. They might be able to get him for around about $500K, maybe. They might be able to get him, but they're not going to be able to get Gary Russell. So outside of an upset in that fight, I don't see him taking on either one of those guys You know, especially at Gary Russell. I say either one of those guys. I don't, you know, now y'all boy, he might want to stay at 126 once he wins the bet. He might not want to jump up to 135. If he jumps up to 135, he gonna want way more than 500,000. So I think that's very, very doubtful. And I did a video a couple of days ago saying that I think the winner of that fight will be a possible opponent. But now that I've did a little background checking and been listening to my sources through the grapevine, I don't see that fight being next. Either one of those guys, actually. I just don't think it makes economic sense for Team Mayweather to try to make a fight between either one of those guys. Like I said, Gary Russell is too expensive, and Mark Masayo, if he's able to pull it upset, might want to defend his belt at 126. With all that being said, the next guy we can look at is Rolando Romero. Well, according to Rolly, he's retired. You go to his Twitter page, he's the boxer formerly known as Rolly. He said he's working on another project that he's very interested to revealing to his Twitter followers and stuff like that. But he's basically talking like a guy that's retired. I don't think he's retired, but I think what it is he's got information that is known to him that he ain't gonna get to fight with Gervonta Tank Davis. Now, he was supposed to fight Gervonta Tank Davis next. He ended up having to get pulled from that fight due to sexual assault allegations. And I don't think Team Mayweather at this point in time want to revisit that fight. They want to make sure that situation is taken care of. They don't want to just say, oh man, you just put him out of that fight to make it look good, but he gets the next fight. But what's going on with these allegations that he got accused of? What's going on with that? But none of the women have filed anything like that. But Al Heyman, I don't think he really want to be dealing with that right now. He still look as Rolly Romero as a guy that has a black cloud over him. And I think they probably might want to look at that fight maybe later on this year in 2022, but not next. I don't see that fight being next. With all that being said, I think the next opponent could be Michel Rivera. My bad, I butchered his last name. Michel Rivera from the DR, Dominican Republic. 22 wins, 0 losses, 14 KOs. His last fight was on Showtime. Matter of fact, I watched that fight on Showtime app, actually. So he's a guy that's fought on Showtime, and that's the cable network that showcases Gervonta Tank Davis's fights. He's a guy that's ranked number 2 in the WBA. Rolly's ranked number 1. I told you the reason why that fight's not going to be next. And Michel Rivera is ranked number 2. I believe that'll be the next opponent. They can give him similar money that they gave Isaac Cruz, $300,000 with a 40% of the pay-per-view split, which had a potential to double like it did with Isaac Cruz, and that will be 2 or 3 times more than he ever earned. Because when you look at his resume, man, he's fought really nobody. I don't recognize none of the names on his list. Now, I do remember the fight he fought last time, but I had never heard of the guy going into that fight. But I do remember that fight. The guy, he's a good fighter, decent power. He's a good solid fighter. He's a young guy too, 23 years old. He actually had been calling out Rolly. He want to fight Rolly next, but Rolly is chasing the big fish. That's Gervonta Tank Davis. And again, I don't think he's gonna risk taking on a guy like a Rivera fight. He could very well lose and risk losing that big payday and big money fight with Gervonta Tank Davis that I still see taking place later on in 2022. With all that being said, look for Gervonta Tank Davis to take on Michel Rivera in the spring of 2022. That's what I'm hearing through the grapevine. Now, again, Gary Russell could be an opponent, but like I said, I just think he's just too expensive. Don't see that happening. Rolly is an outside chance, but I don't think at this point in time they want to revisit that fight. Like I said, he's dealing with some outside issues, and they want to make sure that that's in the rearview mirror before they entertain a fight with Rolly Romero. Let me know your thoughts about Gervonta Tank Davis' next fight with Michel Rivera from the Dominican Republic. Do you like that fight, or you think he should take on the big names in the lightweight division? Devin Haney, who I see moving up to 140 and taking on Victor Postol. I don't see that fight happening. George Kambosos will be taking on Vasily Lomachenko. The WBO will be ordering that fight real soon. And Ryan Garcia, I think his next fight will be against Jojo Diaz. I think that's the most likely opponent. Now, it's still an outside chance that they can get Isaac Cruz, but Isaac Cruz is going to want at least $1 million for that fight. He got $600,000 for the Gervonta Tank Davis fight. I think he's going to want at least $1 million. That's what they offered JoJo Diaz, before Ryan Garcia pulled out of that fight, he was offered, I think, $1 million, a little bit more than $1 million. So Isaac Cruz is not going to come in there for nothing less than $1 million. I don't think Golden Boy going to go for that. So I think the more probable matchup will be an in-house fight with Ryan Garcia versus JoJo Diaz. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. Follow me on Twitter, JBsports3303. If you like this video, share the video and subscribe to JB Sports, the man, the myth, the legend. And I holla.